if I look over my marriage, if I were to judge it in year 5 or year 10, there was never 50-50. Somebody was always giving way more.
Once hailed as America's ultimate power couple and the embodiment of relationship goals, the Obamas now find themselves at the center of growing speculation. For months, they've avoided the spotlight, missing key events, staying quiet amid swirling rumors, and prompting whispers of strain behind the scenes. Now Michelle Obama is finally speaking out. And what she's shared, it's nothing anyone could have predicted. Get ready, because once the truth comes out, your perspective on the Obama family might just change forever. Let's dive in. For years, Barack and Michelle Obama weren't just any couple. They were the couple. From the moment they stepped into the spotlight, they stood for more than just political power. They were Barack and Michelle, icons of unity, strength, and Black excellence, the kind of partnership people romanticize in novels, and yes, even in real-life books. But let's be honest, every love story has its unseen chapters. And the Obamas? They're no exception. Behind the polished image and media admiration lies a relationship that's endured its fair share of storms. Their story began in 1988 at Chicago's prestigious Sidley and Austin law firm. Michelle Robinson, sharp, driven, and laser-focused, was tasked with mentoring a young summer associate named Barack Obama. While Michelle was building her career, Barack was slowly falling for her. He asked her out. She declined. Tried again. Still no. And if you're wondering how we know this, Obama himself recounted it in a 2007 issue of O, the Oprah magazine. Michelle wasn't about to jeopardize her career for an office fling, but Barack, 28 at the time, wasn't just any smitten intern. He was determined, sincere, and persistent. After several polite rejections and a lot of charm, he finally wore her down. Their first official date? Ice cream on a Chicago sidewalk, simple, sweet, and the beginning of a love story that would someday inspire millions. By 1992, they were husband and wife. In 1998, they became parents to Malia, and Sasha arrived in 2001, completing their picture-perfect family. A few years later, they transitioned from private citizens to global figures. When Barack made history in 2008 as the first Black president of the United States, the Obamas weren't just the first family, they were a cultural phenomenon. Their public displays of affection, hand-holding, inside jokes, and easy smiles captivated hearts everywhere. They seemed unstoppable, unshakable, untouchable. But here's the truth few dared to ask at the time. Was everything behind the curtain as perfect as it appeared? Because while the world watched in admiration, the Obamas lived in a pressure cooker of scrutiny. And even the strongest marriages develop stress fractures when every moment is broadcast and every word dissected. Now, years out of the White House, those old cracks might be starting to show in new ways. Every relationship has its highs and lows, but when your last name is Obama, those lows feel a whole lot heavier. While fans were gushing over their matching outfits and swooning at their public affection, Michelle Obama was quietly offering a reality check that most people missed. In a 2023 interview with Gayle King on CBS Mornings, Michelle brought up something she'd already said the year before. But this time, people were finally listening. During a candid conversation with Revolt TV in 2022, Michelle revealed something that caught everyone off guard. There was an entire decade when she couldn't stand Barack. Yes, you heard that right. 10 years. Not a rough patch that lasted a few weeks, a full-blown decade of tension, frustration, and emotional distance. What's even more surprising? This rough stretch didn't occur during campaign chaos or while navigating the pressures of the presidency. It happened much earlier, when their daughters were still small, when parenting took center stage, and when both of their careers were in overdrive. Michelle didn't hold back either. She spoke plainly, saying marriage isn't some neat 50-50 split. Some days, it's 7:30. Other days, It's just about hanging in there. When Gail brought it up again, Michelle didn't backtrack. She stood by her truth, saying, "If we had 20 great years and 10 hard ones, I'd still take that deal."
We've been married for 30 years.
I know.
You know, if I fell out with him for 10 and we had great 20 years, I'd take those odds anytime.
Here's the thing. Most people took Michelle's comments at face value. They praised her vulnerability. "So refreshing," they said. "Finally, a couple being real about marriage." But what if it wasn't just raw honesty? What if those 10 difficult years weren't entirely in the rearview mirror? Because when someone publicly says they couldn't stand their spouse for a full decade, it raises a tough question. Did they ever truly heal from that? Or were those interviews Michelle's quiet way of pulling back the curtain, offering a glimpse at a reality far less perfect than we imagined? Maybe she wasn't just reflecting. Maybe she was subtly signaling that the cracks never fully sealed. And now, with fresh rumors making the rounds, it's hard not to revisit those interviews and wonder, was Michelle hinting at a deeper truth this whole time? When the Obamas left the White House in 2017, most people assumed they were walking into their happily ever after. No more policy battles, no more press conferences, just two people finally stepping away from the pressure cooker of public office to enjoy their freedom and each other. From the outside, it looked like a dream. Lavish vacations, chart-topping memoirs, lucrative Netflix deals, appearances that still captivated millions. It seemed like they'd turned political legacy into a brand of inspiration. But sometimes, when the applause fades and the cameras stop flashing, the silence reveals more than success ever could. For 8 years, their lives had been tightly choreographed, parenting under a microscope, holding a nation's expectations, functioning like a team in a relentless high-stakes game. But what happens when that game ends? Sources close to the couple suggested that adjusting to post-presidency life was harder than anyone let on. Sure, they had their projects, but they also had something they hadn't had in years: uninterrupted time together. With Sasha off at college and Malia carving out her own space in Hollywood, the family home grew quieter. Suddenly, it was just the two of them. No political agenda, no packed schedules, just decades of unresolved tension and buried compromises. Insiders murmured that the transition was anything but seamless. The Obamas, they said, struggled to realign. Michelle immersed herself in advocacy, especially for women and girls. Barack, meanwhile, seemed preoccupied with new ventures. Some whispered, even new distractions. Publicly, the smiles stayed polished. The appearances were united. But behind the scenes, it seemed like they were two people trying to rediscover each other, without the glue of a shared mission holding everything in place. Because when a relationship has been fueled by shared responsibility, what's left when the job is done? For Barack and Michelle, leaving the White House may not have been the fairy tale ending everyone assumed. Instead, it might have marked the moment when their paths slowly began to diverge. And as we're about to explore, those internal struggles wouldn't stay hidden for long. Eventually, the tension began spilling into view, and this time, no carefully crafted image could hide it. If you've followed Barack and Michelle Obama over the years, then you probably remember how inseparable they seemed, or at least how it looked in public. Every big occasion, every televised event, they were shoulder to shoulder, flashing smiles that made it seem like they ruled not just the country, but the world. And for 8 years, they pretty much did. But lately, that flawless front has started to fracture. Take this. Michelle skipped the funeral of former President Jimmy Carter. The official reason? A scheduling conflict. But for someone who built a reputation on always being present, that explanation didn't sit well with a lot of people. Then came the real head-turner, Donald Trump's inauguration. Regardless of how polarizing he is, presidential tradition still matters. Barack confirmed he'd attend, and he did. But Michelle? She was noticeably absent. This time, there wasn't even a statement. No reason, no clarification, just silence. And that silence was louder than any denial could have been. Soon enough, the missed appearances started to pile up, and people noticed. Because this isn't just any high-profile couple we're talking about. It's the Obamas, the pair who defined solidarity, grace under pressure, and the power of staying united. So when Michelle repeatedly bowed out of major moments, it raised more than a few eyebrows. Had it been a one-time absence, no one would have blinked. Maybe even twice, and people would have chalked it up to bad timing. But as the no-shows turned into a pattern, whispers turned into full-blown conversations. And Barack and Michelle? They've been in the spotlight long enough to know that the minute people stop seeing them together, the rumors start writing themselves. Because if there's one thing social media loves more than a picture-perfect romance, it's a messy breakup story. So when Michelle's absences started stacking up, X, formerly Twitter, did what it always does: speculate, analyze, and stir the pot. Over the course of the year, timelines lit up with threads dissecting their relationship. Suddenly, everyone was playing detective, zooming in on body language, matching up travel dates, digging through interviews for hidden clues. Some users even ran wild with their theories, suggesting secret separations, hushed-up divorces, and conflicts that had allegedly been bubbling for years. And of course, the memes came rolling in. Fake headlines, photoshopped dating app screenshots of Barack. It was all there. A circus, fueled by pixels and speculation. But this wasn't just keyboard warriors having fun. Podcasters, bloggers, and self-proclaimed insiders joined the noise. They claimed to have reliable sources, pointing to Michelle's candid interviews and Barack's solo public outings as proof that something was off. Even big-name commentators like Megyn Kelly and Meghan McCain weighed in, alluding to whispers from political circles that things weren't as rosy as the Obamas' Instagram feed made them seem. No official word came from either Barack or Michelle. But in the court of public opinion, the damage was already done. To many, it looked like the divorce was all but finalized. It was just a matter of time. Then came the so-called insider leaks, and that's when things escalated. According to multiple anonymous sources who claimed to be close to the couple, this wasn't just tabloid drama. The Obamas had supposedly been living apart for a while now. One tipster told Radar Online, "They've been separated for some time. The divorce is real. It's not a question of if, but when." Another added, "Michelle is finally prioritizing herself after years of being in Barack's shadow. They're both ready to move forward separately." And just when it couldn't get any more dramatic, reports surfaced claiming the former first couple was quietly working to split their shared empire, keeping it all under wraps to avoid unleashing the media storm of the decade. Because let's be honest, this wouldn't just be another celebrity breakup. It would be historic. No living U.S. president has ever divorced after leaving office. Sure, Ronald Reagan was divorced, but that was before his presidency. A post-White House split? Uncharted territory. Insiders suggested that tension had been simmering for years. But the final straw? Barack allegedly urging Michelle to run for president, a role she's repeatedly said she has no interest in. If you've been paying attention, you already know how firm she's been on this. She's always emphasized her desire to focus on her daughters and steer clear of the political spotlight. Now it's starting to sound like that public stance was backed by private battles. According to these leaks, behind the scenes, the couple was dealing with escalating arguments, emotional exhaustion, and resentment that had finally reached its peak. No confirmations, no denials, just a growing pile of rumors, and an eerie quiet from both Barack and Michelle. And while the polished public image remains intact, these insider claims suggest something very different. Two people no longer walking the same path, quietly laying the groundwork to live life on their own terms, apart. Just when it seemed like every twist had already surfaced, another layer of intrigue emerged, and this time, it was even more surreal. Enter body language experts. Yes, seriously. With the Obamas staying silent, the The public turned to professionals who analyze posture, eye contact, and micro-expressions to get the truth. As the saying goes, the body never lies. And according to these experts, Barack and Michelle's recent public outing wasn't radiating couple energy, it was screaming discomfort. In December, the two were seen leaving a fancy Italian restaurant in Los Angeles. A rare sighting, and on the surface, it should have put all the rumors to rest, but instead of ending the speculation, it only intensified it. Some argued the dinner was a calculated move to put the spotlight back on their unity, but whatever the intention, it backfired because people weren't buying it. Instead, they zeroed in on the awkward energy between them. One of the most notable voices was Judy James, a well-known body language expert based in the UK, and she had a lot to say. For starters, Barack wasn't walking alongside Michelle. He was trailing behind with a tense expression and distant demeanor. Judy noted that as they walked to the car, there was no conversation between them. No eye contact, no affectionate gestures, not even a glance exchanged. Sure, Michelle offered a camera-ready smile, but Judy claimed it vanished as soon as she got into the vehicle. Meanwhile, Barack kept a straight face the entire time, walking several steps behind, looking like he was deep in thought or avoiding connection. And once they were both inside the car, they just sat there in silence, staring straight ahead. Not a word. Not a flicker of warmth. Now sure, it's not unusual for celebrities to dial down the PDA, especially when paparazzi are lurking. But this felt different. This wasn't playing it cool. This was ice cold. Considering they hadn't been publicly spotted together for months, the dinner seemed intentional, a staged moment to silence the critics. But ironically, the silence between them spoke louder than any rumor ever could. Judy summed it up simply. The physical distance, lack of communication, and absent chemistry suggested a couple putting on a front, not enjoying a night out. For those still hoping the Obamas were just going through a rough patch, this outing felt like a nail in the coffin. But just when the gossip machine reached full throttle, things took an unexpected turn and dragged Hollywood royalty into the mix. Enter Jennifer Aniston. That's right. Somehow, America's favorite sitcom sweetheart ended up tangled in one of the juiciest political gossip sagas of the decade. Once whispers began that Barack Obama had grown unusually close to the Friends star, the internet went into meltdown mode. Tabloids buzzed with claims of secret meetups and a blossoming friendship that raised eyebrows. Suddenly, Michelle's absence from public life wasn't about personal space. It was, according to rumor mills, about a third wheel. Of course, there was no solid proof, no shady DMS, no paparazzi snaps, nothing verifiable. But in the world of celebrity drama, who needs evidence when you have speculation? Within hours, social media had done its thing. Memes of Barack and Jen flooded timelines. Conspiracy threads popped up. Overnight, whispers of a potential divorce spiraled into accusations of an affair. Some fans rolled their eyes, calling it laughable. Others were skeptical but intrigued. The narrative wasn't new. A powerful man meets a glamorous actress during a rocky marriage. Classic tabloid fuel. Jennifer Aniston, ever the queen of silence, didn't comment. Neither did Barack. And of course, the absence of a denial only added gasoline to the fire. Because in the gossip world, silence is rarely interpreted as innocence. Whether true or not, the rumor had already done its damage. The Obamas were no longer just fighting whispers of a strained marriage. They were now caught in a full-blown celebrity scandal. Then, just when it seemed the rumors couldn't get any wilder, Michelle finally broke her silence. After weeks of gossip, online theories, and insider leaks, she decided to speak. Kind of. On January 30th, Michelle posted on Instagram. No tell-all, no dramatic selfie, no sassy quote. Just Michelle doing what she does best, keeping it dignified and strategic. She shared a post about a memorial garden in honor of Hadia Pendleton, the young girl who tragically lost her life shortly after performing at Barack's second inauguration. The garden was part of a new project by the Obama Presidential Center. It was heartfelt and noble, but it wasn't the topic people were waiting to hear about. However, what caught everyone's eye was one small detail in the caption. She mentioned Barack. "Barack and I look forward to honoring her memory," she wrote, casually referring to him as my husband. Cue the internet pause. Was that her subtle way of shutting down the breakup talk? Or a carefully crafted distraction from the headlines? Let's be real. One Instagram caption doesn't erase months of missed events, cryptic silences, and mounting rumors. In fact, for many, it raised even more eyebrows. If everything's fine, why not post a photo together? Why no direct statement? Some followers saw the caption as reassurance, a quiet reminder that their bond still stood. Others weren't convinced, brushing it off as classic PR cleanup. And as the debate raged on, Michelle finally addressed it more directly in a recent podcast with actress Sophia Bush. In that candid conversation, the now 61-year-old opened up about her life post-White House. She talked about prioritizing her peace, enjoying her independence, and choosing to spend time in places she loves, like Hawaii. Michelle also tackled the two events that had everyone talking: Jimmy Carter's funeral and Trump's inauguration. She explained that she was vacationing during the funeral, and as for skipping Trump's big day, that was simply a personal choice. "They couldn't believe I'd make that decision for myself," she said. "So they assumed we were divorcing." And in that moment, the energy shift was clear. She spoke like a woman who's had honest conversations, weighed her options, and made peace with staying in the marriage, for now. Because let's be honest, a presidential divorce would be historic in all the wrong ways. The Obamas probably realized that this isn't just a relationship, it's a legacy, a symbol, a brand rooted in resilience. At the end of the day, none of the rumors are confirmed. It's all just smoke and speculation. But there's no denying that the signs are hard to ignore. They're subtle, but they're there. So what do you think? Is this just social media doing what it does, blowing things out of proportion? Or are we witnessing the quiet unraveling of a once bulletproof bond? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear every theory. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more in-depth stories like this, because if we've learned anything, it's that when it comes to the Obamas, there's always more beneath the surface. Stay tuned.